Straight ahead on 12 News, a truck driver gets a bird's eye view of some bad driving habits.
I don't want my wife and kids on a road with somebody that's not paying attention.
Then a thorny problem invading yards and nature areas. What local foresters say must be done about it. But first,
validates what we've known for 25 years.
A Robbinsdale couple celebrates a day the governor proclaimed Freedom to Marry Day. 12 News starts right now. It's a history-making day in Minnesota. At the stroke of midnight, same-sex couples could legally marry in Minnesota.
At least 5 same-sex couples from the Northwest Metro tied the knot in the pre-dawn hours. Reporter Sonia Goen shares one Robbinsdale couple's special day.
So Jesse walks us down the aisle.
Pam Allen and Michelle Case got married in the wee hours of the morning at Minneapolis City Hall.
It was very festive. It was kind of a big party.
Celebrate the marriage of Pam and Michelle.
They exchanged vows surrounded by their 9 children.
Tonight, finally, I can say, Pam Allen, take this ring as a symbol of my eternal love for you.
You have given me 25 years filled with love, kids and camping, soccer and football and dance classes. We have been a family.
I will love you more each day than I did the day before.
You are my best friend, my partner, my true love, and my wife.
No matter what lies in our path, it will be our path, and we will walk it together as a family.
I give you my hand, my heart, and my love for all eternity.
This day has been long in the making. The Robbinsdale couple has been together for 25 years. It hasn't always been easy.
We faced a lot of opposition from friends and family when we first got together.
Michelle and Pam say, in their eyes, they've always been married.
More that's recognized outside of us, where it has always been with us.
Oh my gosh, this is real. We're really, this really happened. It wasn't just a dream.
The joy of this day is still sinking in.
It's like, wow, did we really do that?
Although they're now officially married in Minnesota, Pam and Michelle say they know their love is still not accepted by everyone.
I think that there's still a fear of the unknown.
But we don't try to hide who we are, but we don't just put it out there like this is us, because that's a part of us, but it's not.
It's not all. It's not all of who we are.
They say they've had a happy home for decades.
I think I'm proud of us and proud of our family, and yes, I'm proud to be part of a bigger community.
And today's ceremony makes their love that much sweeter. Pam and Michelle weren't the only same-sex couples getting married today. 4 couples from Golden Valley and 1 from Maple Grove also tied the knot. An estimated 5,000 couples are expected to get married this year. In Minneapolis, Sonia Goins, 12 News.
Minnesota census figures show there's about 10,000 same-sex couples. The state expects about 5,000 of those couples to marry in the first year. In fact, Golden Valley has the highest concentration of same-sex couples in the state per capita, right ahead of Minneapolis. Nationwide, Golden Valley was 43rd. Meanwhile, Robbinsdale was 6th in the state.
A Maple Grove man has admitted to vandalizing a church several times near his home. Lonnie Roseland says he did it because of the church's acceptance of same-sex marriage. In an interview with the Twin Cities Fox affiliate, Roseland says that was him caught on surveillance video throwing eggs at Pilgrims United Church of Christ. He also admitted to writing anti-gay messages on the church. He says he has no plans to egg the church again. Police got several tip calls that identified the suspect after releasing surveillance video. The case is now in the hands of the Maple Grove City Attorney. Authorities call it a bias-motivated crime, and because of that are expected to pursue elevated charges.
New mid-year crime numbers reveal a positive trend in Hennepin County. They show crime has decreased countywide. For violent crime, there was an 8% reduction over last year. Property crime decreased as well, down 7%. The numbers continue a downward trend from last year, when Hennepin County had one of the lowest levels of violent crime in more than 2 decades.
A new law that takes effect today tightens restrictions on drivers who share the roads with bicyclists.
So I've been hit 4 times with cars that have turned in front of me and not looked to see who was there.
Travis Dorweiler is a bicycle rider and the manager of Maple Grove Cycling. He says the new law requiring cars to yield the right-of-way to bikes in a bike lane is a good safety move. That law allows motorists to cross bike lanes, but only if they signal first and yield to any approaching bicycles. But Dorweiler says both bicyclists and drivers can do better.
We definitely need to have the cars work with us a little bit better as cyclists to pay attention so that they see us, but we also as cyclists need to pay attention and be a little bit better as far as following the rules as well too.
Another part of the law requires bicycle lights that can be seen at night from at least 500 feet from the front or the back. Well, unfortunately, traffic deaths are on the rise in Minnesota for the second year in a row.
Already this year, more than 200 people have lost their lives on Minnesota roads. That's compared with 180 deaths at this time last year. At that rate, officials project there will be 450 traffic fatalities by the end of the year. But that doesn't have to be the case if drivers just do one simple thing. From the cab of his semi-truck, Scott Wendell sees it all.
One of the big ones is eating, changing the radio station, reading newspapers, putting makeup on tends to be a big one.
Distracted drivers doing just about everything but paying attention to the road.
We see an awful lot of people texting or checking their smartphones, especially at our vantage point being as high as we are.
Distracted driving plays in about 25% of all crashes. So it is a leading cause, leading factor.
And it's 100% preventable. That's what bothers Lieutenant Robert Zach of the Minnesota State Patrol.
We want to get the message out to people just to pay attention and work at driving. It's not something that just happens organically.
5 years ago today, the state's no texting and driving law went into effect, making it illegal to text, email, or surf the web on a mobile device, even when you're stopped at a light.
That's not just when they're driving, it's when they're sitting at a stoplight or a stop sign. That's also illegal. A lot of people don't know that.
And it's kind of surprising at how much of that really goes on.
From his viewpoint, Scott Wendell still sees people checking their phones all the time.
It's very common when you're in a big rig like this.
His safety training requires him to check his mirrors every few seconds and keep his mind on the road.
So we can make sure we see what's going on behind us and alongside us.
He wishes others would do the same.
I don't want my wife and kids on the road with somebody that's not paying attention to what they're doing. It's putting them at risk also.
The rise in traffic fatalities this year also includes a spike in the number of motorcyclists killed, 41 so far. Still ahead, it's invading yards, parks, and prairies.
We're talking about buckthorn, and it continues to bully nature. See how local foresters are battling back, coming up next. Then later in sports, young athletes in one local community get a chance to find out what playing football is all about.
But first, is there really anything you could complain about in your AccuWeather forecast? We'll be right back. When pioneers introduced a plant called buckthorn to Minnesota in the 1800s, they thought it would thrive as a hedge.
But it's thrived a little too well. Buckthorn hasn't been sold in the state for 80 years, but you can still find plenty of it in the woods and in our parks. 12 News reporter Shannon Slatton shares how you can help battle buckthorn.
This whole area right here, you couldn't see 5 feet.
When Dave Turbinson grabs his red basket and heads into the woods,
These trails had grown closed, and we still have a lot of work to do.
he's a man on a mission.
When I moved to Plymouth 10 years ago, one of the reasons I moved here was the parks and the trails and the woods. And over the last 10 years, the woods near my house have slowly been overrun by buckthorn.
Buckthorn is a non-native plant that has an opposite leaf pattern and thorns. It spreads rapidly and crowds out other plants.
So I decided to make a stand and start cutting buckthorn.
Dave decided to battle buckthorn in the park that borders his backyard.
Now that we've found the buckthorn, it's time to cut it and kill it. And the two most useful tools for cutting buckthorn are just a lopper and a handsaw.
After you cut the buckthorn, you must apply a concentrated herbicide to kill the plant. One of the biggest mistakes people make is they cut it but don't kill it.
We need to kill this buckthorn. If I don't treat this with an herbicide, by next year there'll be 5 to 8 new sprouts coming out of this stump.
There's evidence of that here. Someone cut a big buckthorn tree but didn't spray it. So 10 plants grew out of the stump.
It's gaining momentum.
Here you can see just how prolific one buckthorn tree can be. This is a female. You can tell because it has berries. Underneath you'll see hundreds of new plants that will be ready to reproduce in the next few years. Plymouth needs more volunteers like Dave to organize Buckthorn Bus this fall.
Volunteers are critical in our struggle against buckthorn. We just don't have the resources to get everywhere.
But volunteers could lead the way in eliminating the buckthorn bully from overtaking a park near your home.
I just don't want to let that happen on my watch. I feel it's my responsibility as a resident of Plymouth to do something about it.
In Plymouth, Shannon Slatton, 12 News.
The best time to eradicate buckthorn is late summer or early fall, and buckthorn loses its leaves later than native trees, so that's one way to identify it. And I think if you look in your backyard, you might have some.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, a lot of people do. Well, coming up, a New Hope woman's attempt to make something seemingly impossible possible.
But first in sports, drop a line with pro angler Terry Tuma for this week's fishing tip. John Jacobson has that and much more when we come back.
John Jacobson joins us now with sports, and we start with baseball, but not the kind of bats that you're used to hearing in high school baseball.
No, not high school or younger kids. Target Field, yes,
yeah,
but
right.
when you get the younger players, not so much. Young baseball players and fans will hear a little different sound this weekend at parks in Robbinsdale and Golden Valley. The 9th annual Wood Bat Tournament gets started Thursday afternoon. About 16, 11, and 12-year-old Little League teams are getting one last tournament in after their summer seasons have ended. This year's tournament's proceeds will go to the Baseball in Benin project.
Well, first of all, it's a wood bat tournament, and I think that the kids get excited about it because it hasn't been since we were kids that people were using wood bats at this age level. So I think that is probably the biggest attraction for the kids. As you said, the charity that it goes to this year is Baseball in Benin. And what we're trying to do is to bring baseball to the small West African nation and provide them with funding so that they can build a field. And we're getting donations of equipment and uniforms and shoes and everything that they need.
Each player will get a tournament t-shirt and a wood bat to keep. The goal is to have at least one team from Benin come to Minnesota to play in this tournament 2 years from now. Well, high school football practice starts soon, but this week players and coaches at Maple Grove stayed busy working youth camps. A 3-day camp brought out more than 160 kids in grades 3 through 6. Maple Grove head coach Matt Lombardi and his players try to keep it light and teach the fundamentals. But really the camp is about more than football.
I just want them to know they're a part of something that is a little bit bigger than themselves, and that even at 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, you can look forward to something and wake up every morning and say, boy, that was cool. I can't wait to go back out. And if we can accomplish that at all with this, that's our goal. And then when they leave, hopefully they learn some things too. But more importantly, I just want them to love the game of football and enjoy being with each other. That's the big thing.
We're learning how to play the game of football, and we're practicing on tackling dummies.
And its players also hosted a camp for 7th and 8th graders last week. Well, getting sunfish from the lake and into your boat is the topic of this week's Channel 12 fishing tip. Here's Tackle Terry Tuma.
So many anglers pursue the sunfish family of fish, and it's a sought after species. Obviously good eating. In fact, I just spoke to somebody yesterday and it was #1 on their list of fillets deep frying. So here again too, let's just take a look at how to catch them, maybe where to catch some of these fish. We're not talking those 6 and 7 inchers though, we're talking large sunfish, the big monster ones. Generally speaking, you're going to have your small sunfish inside the weeds, very aggressive. The big sunfish, depending on the lake construction, at the edge of the green weeds, points that run into deep water with some flats on the sort of the back side of it, inside turns of those. And then our favorite spot is some of those sunken, weedy humps, also very good, or sunken islands with some weed growth up on top. Now, some of the best ways to catch those fish, one is using jigs. Generally speaking, no bigger than an 1/8 of an ounce jig, preferably a 32nd of an ounce or a 1/16 of an ounce, and tip this with a piece of a crawler or a leech. And with the leeches here again, try to use your smaller leeches, not so much a panfish leech, but sort of in between a panfish leech and a medium-sized leech. If you're after some big sunfish, leeches will also produce the larger sizes. Now with the rod type, for this type of vertical jigging or casting tool, I do like a softer tip, longer rod, something in the area of a 7 foot, 7.2, 7.6, and we're using a light action spinning reel, a walleye spinning reel, but very productive. And the reason we want a longer rod is to pinpoint your accuracy casting or being further away from the boat when you're vertical jigging. Give it a try for these monster sunfish, available on so many bodies of water just in our area alone. Be sure to tune in next week. We're going to talk a little bit more about how to catch these big sunfish.
Thanks, Terry, and that's a look at sports today.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John. Still ahead, a small business owner's attempt to change the attitude of Congress.
Meet
It's
a new
unusual that here Kathy in New Hope, Minnesota is working on this issue.
Meet a New Hope mom trying to tackle one gigantic national problem. That's when we come back.
For most of us, if we don't have the money, we don't spend it.
But that's not always the case in government. As Neil Persley reports, it's a concern that's prompted one New Hope woman into action.
If we want to do the fun stuff in America, you have to solve this issue.
This issue Kathy is talking about is the U.S. national
Well,
debt,
I think that
which is
it just
closing
shows
in
the
on
legis-
$17 trillion.
There are people out here that care about this issue.
That's why she accepted the call to become a spokesperson for the organization called FixTheDebt.org. She aims to tell Congress that the public and small businesses are concerned with our nation's skyrocketing national debt.
And because it's a tough issue, and they're going to hear it from both sides. Different ways to fix it or not fix it.
She recently returned from a trip to Washington, D.C. to meet with Minnesota representatives.
It's really kind of common sense that we need to get these problems fixed.
Kathy says she's always had an interest in the way government worked. Still, it's different to be actively working on something with this big of a scope.
It's unusual that here Kathy in New Hope, Minnesota is working on this issue, but it affects us all.
In New Hope, Neil Persley, 12 News.
And next on Kathy's agenda is to meet with business leaders in Minnesota as well as past and present state elected officials. And that's all the news for us. Thanks so much for joining us.
Stay with us. Community Corner is coming up next, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow beginning at 4.